Yo, listeners! Welcome to Tetsuo Tells a Story. I'm Tetsuo. So, in this episode, the topic is on Skinwalkers. So, this is dedicated to my Native American community. Indigenous spirituality and Hmong spirituality are pretty similar, and I actually get mistaken for being Native at times. So, to some cultures, storytellers are sacred, and through storytelling, it's one of the ways that majority of cultures survive. It sort of teaches you how to be a better human being, some of the moral ethics behind some of the folklores. So, just thought I'd add that in. To begin, we'll have a short background on Skinwalkers and then start with the 4 true Skinwalker encounter stories. So, backstory to Skinwalkers. So, the actual name for Skinwalkers is Yenadoshi in the Navajo language. So, it is a witch that has the ability to shapeshift. Specifically, these stories are told in the Navajo culture. So, specifically, it's in the Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah area. There are people that dabbled in blood magic and or witchcraft. So this is a direct quote from Legends of America. Quote, "In order to become a skinwalker, he or she must be initiated by a secret society that requires the evilest of deeds, the killing of a close family member, most often a sibling. After this task has been completed, the individual then acquires supernatural powers, which gives them the ability to shapeshift into animals. Most often, they are seen in the forms of coyotes, wolves, foxes, cougars, dogs, and bears. But they can take on the shape of any animal. They also wear the skin of the animals that they transform into, hence the name Skinwalkers. Sometimes they wear animal skulls or antlers on top of their heads, which brings them more power. They choose what animal they want to turn into, depending on the ability needed for a particular task, such as speed, strength, endurance, stealth, claws, and teeth, etc. They may transform again if they're trying to escape from pursuers." Unquote. So skinwalkers are actually something very serious. There was actually a Navajo witch purge that occurred in 1876. Alright, let's get on with these 4 true stories of skinwalkers. Story 1. Javelina or Javeli-nah. I used to live in Arizona, near a mountain sacred to the Native American tribes in the area. There were a lot of skinwalker rumors in the area. My friends and I loved camping and were lucky enough to get permission to use a site near the mountain, which is along the Salt River, for a weekend. First thing, you must understand that we were a pretty sheltered group of kids. We didn't use drugs and alcohol, only in moderation. We mostly went out to share creepy stories around the fire camp and to nerd out for a night or two. We spent a lot of time in the desert and were all familiar with land and wildlife, even the rarer species. We were sitting around our fire listening to river and the animal sounds all around us. Crickets, cicadas, birds. The moon was almost full and the desert was beautiful. Suddenly, everything goes quiet. Just the sound of the river remains, and even that seems creepy. The air grew still and seems to get cold. We hear rustling in the undergrowth across from our fire, and out steps a Javelina. Javelinas are in the pig family, usually a brownish color. Biggest ones are about the size of a medium dog, and they're actually kind of cute. But this one was not cute. It was huge in the look, jet black, with glowing red eyes. It paced around a bit, seemed like it was going around the fire, so it could catch each one of us in its eye. I have never seen anything look at me like that, and I work with psych patients. Its gaze was cold and searching, like it could see through me. After what felt like forever, it finally backed up through the undergrowth. The night got warmer, and the normal sounds started up again. We spent the rest of the night very close to the fires, and GTFO'd as soon as the sun rose. I really want to believe that it was just a male Javelina scoping out some territory, but every instinct I have says that it wasn't. Story 2. Brother, oh brother, where art thou? I went hunting on an 80-acre forest. I lost sight of the main trail, which turned out not to be far away. I radioed my brother to see where he was at. He responds that he was at the main trail, not too far from me. So I yelled out loud, "Oi, where are you?" I hear him yell back,
"Over here."
I see him waving his arm, so I started walking towards him. But then I regained my sense of direction and realized that I was going the wrong way. So I make a detour to the trail, and my brother was nowhere to be found. Confused, I walked down the trail for 20 minutes to my brother, who apparently was waiting on the trail. I asked him if he heard me yell and if it was him waving me to come over. My brother responds,
No. I didn't wave or anything. I've been waiting for you on this trail for over 30 minutes. Since I radioed you, I didn't hear any yelling or anything.
What's so crazy is that this is a private fenced-off property, and we were the only ones in that hunting area. No other cars or truck could have accessed it unless they were parked in the same lot we did. I remained silent until we got home. Story 3. Take it seriously now. I had a geology professor in college who studied with a group of students in Utah, out in some remote areas. He had heard the stories about Skinwalkers, but hadn't taken them seriously. That was until he experienced some freaky stuff for himself. He said that one night they were sitting around the fire about a football field away from a large rock structure. Suddenly, they heard voices from up in the rocks, like dozens of people chatting, singing, dancing. They thought it was strange that campers would suddenly appear and be so loud. Then they heard the noises come closer to the rocks, getting closer and closer to them. Audibly, they were voices. As they got closer, the voices turned into coyotes, yapping. They then saw the glow of their eyes as they ran off into the plains. Story 4. Running Coyote. This one story stands out the most. It comes from a close friend of mine. Take it for what it's worth. This Didn't really happen to me, but a close friend of mine. I've heard a lot about coyotes, skinwalkers, and had a weird experience or two with coyotes. For example, the creepiest was waking up to my sleeping bag being surrounded by paw prints without ever hearing them during the night. But never anything paranormal, so to speak. Patrick's story, however, kept me from going back to a favorite backcountry secret stash. So Patrick was leaving the area one morning. He had been camping there for a couple days and said that there was a coyote that always seemed to be close by. It was in his peripheral vision, but never overt. He loaded up his truck and started driving up the washout towards the road. At the end of the wash, he could see the coyote following him. When he pulled into the road, it was running right next to him. Now, he was freaked out, so he sped up. He said he was going 35 or something, and it was running along right beside him. Definitely not possible. When he looked back, the coyote was now running on two legs and was wearing what Patrick said looked like buckskin pants. An instant later, it was a person wearing a coyote fur, keeping pace with his truck. He then looked again, but it was gone. We never went back to the grove after that. Too scary. Thanks everyone for listening in on these 4 Skinwalker stories. If you enjoyed these stories, remember to like, share, and subscribe to Tetsuo Tells a Story. Again, you can find me here on YouTube and podcast providers such as Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and so more. Do you have a story to tell? Let me know and I can read it to the world. See you in the next episode. Thanks.